All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:01.
Which one, if you had the light hair in there?
The order for this evening will be as follows. The first item is 2016-41, Lewis 41D North Broadway. Second item will be 2016-27, William and Regina Fitzgerald, 130 Main Street. Third item will be 2016-39, Linda Boff, 6 Palliser Road. Next will be 2016-35, Steve and Suzanne Soleimani. Next will be 2016-31, Panos Papapanu and Evanthea Lala, 20 Lewis Road. Next will be 2016-29, Eileen Fisher, 116, 118 Main Street. Following will be 2017-05, Lawrence and Janice Sheps, 3 Dow's Lane. Then 2017-06, Joseph Mara, 20 Barney Park. And last will be 2017-04, Jason Topman, 3 Leafwood Terrace. So with that, Sarah, is everybody up to date on their taxes? And then I think before we start on any of the items, though, we had 3 months of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at them? Any comments? Any further comments? No? And can I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the January, February, and March?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
I was
Aye.
Okay, so we'll the 3 of us. Okay, so the 3 of us were. So the minutes are approved for the 3 months. Okay. With that, the first item then is 2016-41, Cameron and Alana Lewis, 41D North Broadway.
Tom Malone, Ferguson Malone Architects. Hold on, John. Oops, not working. It's not working. No problem. Tom Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, representing Cameron and Alana Lewis. This is a revision to approve site plan approval, site plan development approval. We are eliminating the proposed addition that is on the north side of the building, and the addition to the south is being increased with a second story. Other than that, there was an oversight in the submission. The play area is going to be removed, as was part of the requirement of the original approval.
Is it being removed or?
I'm sorry,
Just
relocated
relocated
outside of the wetland buffer area.
And John, there was one other question, I think that was raised by both the engineer and by the Environmental Conservation Board with regard to the location of the construction access, because there are 2 trees towards the north portion of the property along the driveway, and I think you're proposing to put a row of shrubs, along the driveway there. And I guess prior to doing that, you were going to use, is that going to be the construction access?
There was originally 2 construction accesses, one from off this driveway here to construct this front one. We've eliminated that access and put the existing plants that were shown to be demolished back. So that's what's happening up there, and the construction would use the rear construction access for that.
Okay, fine. Any other comments from any of the board members?
Can you go to the elevations? Specifically why you're doing a flat roof?
Somebody took the pages from the other one.
This one dances.
Probably one of those special meetings.
Oh, yes. This is one of those.
Although,
Something pick me up?
It's just, it's full.
maybe the plans are good.
Okay. So there we are. This is the addition that we're proposing. On the first and second floor. Yeah, that's the addition. So the flat roof addition has to do with marrying this addition to the existing cornice line of the gable end piece. We're trying to take that horizon line all the way around, and also we're looking to provide head height in this room that exceeds the cornice line. So that was one of the reasons that we did that. This is we could have looked at a shed for it, but this one, the way this appears on elevation is not really the way it's going to appear when you perceive the house, because you're always below the house in terms of the grade of it. When you're down around the other side, so you're really going to see the cornice line, and you're not going to see the roof structure above.
So if you put a hip on top of it, you're not going to see it?
The hip, well, you have to have a shallow hip, because also a hip on top of it would have to come way into this roof and meet it. So you probably would see the hip more than what we're showing now.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know how others feel, but it just looks
Like a blacktop.
Yeah, I think the way that you're perceiving it in elevation is different than the way you would perceive it on the
How about
side.
the other elevation?
Yeah, you have another view.
This elevation.
So you don't think that that's going to look odd?
I don't. In terms of Georgian porch additions, that there's a lot of examples of Georgian porch additions that do low slope roofs as they meet the cornice edge. Some of them have treatments that are kind of parapet treatments that.
With windows that are right up there at the cornice line?
I'm sorry.
With windows right up to the cornice line?
Yeah, it's not that atypical for like a solarium addition that you would see around Irvington to have a flat roof or a low slope roof condition like this. I mean,
Right, I personally have never seen anything like what you're describing here. I know what you're describing, and
Right.
typically the fenestration is a little bit different. That there's a little bit more of either there's more glass, there's something that it just looks like when one was going to look at that especially from the street, it's going to look like, man, what they should have really done is put that hip and connect it to the
but, I
other.
mean, we can look at an option. We still haven't been to architectural review board. We can look at changing. There's additional cost or something associated with the hip.
But this addition is around the back of the house, correct? Right. So as you approach that semicircular driveway, you don't really see that.
No,
see-
you won't
this is
see
from the back.
this. And I understand what George is saying. Like in a situation where, like what we had originally shown on the front, where you have a low slope roof situation, there's a whole cornice entablature thickness that would be above the windows. So this crown that's shown here would typically be above something that would probably be about 14 inches, and then you'd have the crown on top of it, and the roof would start there. There's not really room on this existing roof to do a shed or a very tall hip, but we could do a steeper hip than what we're showing here.
Just doesn't seem to flow with the rest of the house.
The other way that this is usually treated with the flat roof stuff is there's what's basically called a parapet piece that is, in a classical building would look like a railing or something like that would be low, like 24 inches, that would mask the low slope roof. And that's something I think that would probably work better here than
I have that on my house for the flat roof. It's
right. It sort of increases.
porch fence.
Yeah.
3
But it
feet-
could
3
be
feet high.
it could be solid, like it could
No,
be portions of it.
posts.
Right. In this case, I mean, that's what we could look at, and that would work with the existing roof.
Any other comments? Yeah. I think my own concern is that it's not visible from the front of the house, so I hear what George is saying, and yeah, maybe that is a good solution, then putting some sort of railing along the top of the roof. But I guess they're going to have to go to the ALC.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can look at that. What happens with those baluster conditions and a condition like that is that they meet the existing slope roof, and there's usually an odd connection there, and that kind of connection of the railing meeting the sloped roof would be visible, where this stuff's sort of visible and hidden. But we can look at it.
What do you think, George? Your objection?
I know what George is telling me. He's telling us to push that a little bit further, and we can do that. I got it.
I guess there are just a couple other comments here on Doug Hahn's letter to, which is that the tree protection detail shows the fence at the drip line of the tree. It should be shown on the plan. And I think there's any bends in the proposed drainage pipe should be eliminated. Drainage structures should be used where bends are required. As previously mentioned, deep test pits and percolation tests used in the stormwater calculation should be provided. And I think that was it. Right? Doug?
The deep test is scheduled for next week, and we'll review that.
Well, with regard to the site plan, do we have a motion to approve the site plan?
Wait, don't you read the resolution?
Yeah,
Oh,
but I gotta see if we just got a
oh, are
motion.
you ready
I
for
want-
the resolution? I thought
Yeah.
you made a motion after I read the resolution.
Well, we can. I think even before you read the resolution, I just want to get a sense
Oh,
of it.
see what it is.
We approved the site plan, but we still gotta come back for what that's gonna look like.
Well, he's going,
I'm
no,
going
he's going to go to the ARB.
Oh, okay.
There, dude.
And then you come back here.
No, you don't have to.
I wouldn't be coming back here.
I think, again, that becomes an issue for the ARB to look at and understand George's made some comments and that certain things they could look at in terms of that. But, I mean, with regard to the site plan, I'm okay with the site plan.
Yeah, so I just need, it has nothing to do with you now, this is the second time it's come up, is like a clarification by someone who can tell me what our mandate is. I always understood it as, we're about bulk and mass, as well as drain and all that other stuff. And the ARB is more in about materials and things like that. So when it comes down to, specific things like this, saying, oh, we'll send it off to the ARB, then to me, if that's the case, we shouldn't even discuss it. If they're the ones who are actually going to be the ones that decide these things, what are we doing? Because it's very confusing, I would think, as a client here. Who's saying what? What if I say, no, it should be blue, and then the ARB says, no, it should be red? What happens? So I always understood that our role was to make sure that the bulk and mass of these things, besides other things, are appropriate. That's what I understood. And if that's not the case, someone just has to tell me, and then I'll shut up.
So George is asking, is it our obligation to make sure that roof looks the way it should, rather than send it off to the ARB to do?
I mean, I would take that. Errol, did you want to say something?
Yes. Thank you. Yes, the ARB...
Just identify yourself.
Earl Ferguson, I'm sorry, architect. The ARB does deal with more than just color and materials. They look at window placement, proportions. They look at massing to a certain extent, insofar as balance and proportions and the overall exterior appearance of a structure.
Well, then someone has to say that is no longer the purview of the planning board. That if they are the ones that are the final say with something like this, then we should treat them like the zoning board, which is that they have the final say for these things.
Well, sometimes it's not a black and white. So, I mean, I think this is a situation where the bulk and mass is some, oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to know when to open up, let's say something or
Most of the time it's
not.
clear. Once in a while, the purviews of the two boards get a little bit closer, and I think here it is a little bit closer. And you could, if you're really uncomfortable with the massing, that's a planning board issue. Or if you think the ARB can resolve that, then you can send there. It's you can't say if it deals with a roof line that it's the ARB and not the planning board. It depends.
What?
But it
When you
gets
get to
very
certain
confusing, forget me, it gets I would think it's very confusing for people that come.
Yeah.
That's where I'd like to, if I was John, I would like to know who has the final say on this, and then deal with them.
What George has a question about on this house, I would consider architectural detailing, not in massing. He's not asking.
Well, I leave that to the architect.
No, I mean,
The architectural
and he's not asking
detail
for
is
the
definitely the ARB.
for the building to be smaller. He's not asking for the roof line to change its configuration significantly. He's saying that the detailing from the window up is not appropriate. Right? He's actually asking for the massing to be a little bit bigger. Right?
Yeah, so
you're
George
asking-
is actually asking about mass and bulk, not what color is, or what
Well, 'cause
material
you're at the
is
point where
this,
it could be-
or even about fenestration. My question was purely about the kind of the mass of this thing. And that's why I thought that's what our mandate was. And that's why I brought it up. I didn't bring
I was
up,
understanding that you thought that detail was awkward from the window line up, that detail was awkward, not that you necessarily needed the thing to be taller.
no, I specifically said that I asked you about the flat roof.
Right.
Okay? And I suggested that, to me, that wasn't necessarily the correct approach. And then you started talking about windows and things like that, and then we just started talking about that. But specifically, I didn't come to say, oh, I think your windows are too small or not. I specifically talked about that flat roof and how that is incorporated into this building. I understand that, and I sort of get that, okay, when it comes to window sizes and materials and things like that, that is more the purview of the, but if someone comes here with something and the mass of it, the bulk of it, is not to the liking of this board, I believe that this board is supposed to basically determine that, not say this and then that. So I just want to know when I should say something.
I think it's fair to say that there is a gray line
I'll
here
still say it.
where we're getting close to each other here too, but I think on this particular project, I don't really have a problem with it because I don't see it as on the front elevation. As you approach the house, you're not going to be seeing that particular roof line. You may have a valid comment that it doesn't fit in with the rest of it, but then again too, I was looking at one of the elevations where you had the peaked roof right next to it. I said, I'm trying to figure out how is another peaked roof going to fit in with that one? You know, you're going to have one roof in this direction, the other roof in that direction. Are they both going to be like this? So you're going to have a valley and then like a step back up. So I didn't think that the flat roof was all that odd in this particular situation. And I think we do have a right to comment on those types of things. I think we have in the past on another project that'll come up this evening too. But as I said, I think we have in the past, and we can make comments like that. And then I think it goes off to the ARB and they may have additional comments.
I'm just trying to look out for you guys, and there you go. So
I think it's helpful to make comments like that. And the ARB.
Carl, if you need to speak, you need to speak on the microphone.
I'm still going to open
Thank
my
you,
mouth.
George.
Okay?
It is helpful to hear comments from the planning board, and it would even help the architectural review board to know what your comments were, I think. And they do look at form as well as, every aspect of the exterior appearance of the building.
And this goes out to does it go over the comments from the board? When it goes over to the ARB, does it go over the comments from us?
Rick's
Well,
not here
Rick's
tonight.
not here tonight. I mean, they can get a copy of the transcript of the meeting. Unless it's not ready in time.
You can send an email.
We can send an email.
In fact, I would
If there's an issue on
suggest
it.
sending an email because they'll get that sooner than the minutes will be ready.
Right, okay, good. Ready for the vote.
Ordinarily, it wouldn't though.
All right, so we can take a vote on this then in terms of a resolution to approve the site plan, but we can also make comments as part of that with regard to, the bulk and massing of the particular addition and the roof line. I mean, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
All right?
Motion to.
All right.
All right, Mary Ann, do
No,
you want
I
to
have
read
a
it?
resolution here, I should say that it doesn't incorporate any of the comments
That's okay.
about bulk and mass, but the ARB wouldn't get your resolution anyway, I don't think. So it doesn't matter, so it's the memo that'll be significant.
What I'll do is I'll prepare an email, I'll send it to the other board members, make sure you're all okay with it, and you can comment on it, and then we'll send that off to the ARB.
Okay, so this doesn't deal with that. But on February 1st, 2017, Cameron and Alana Lewis received site development plan approval to construct 2 additions to their house at 41D North Broadway and to legalize several undocumented structures on the property, including a shed and a playground. And on January 24th, the Zoning Board of Appeals granted a front yard variance and a side yard variance for the shed on the condition that the shed be completely screened by bushes or shrubs. In March 2017, the applicants applied for revised site development plan approval to eliminate the proposed north addition and to revise the south addition to include 2 stories and a slightly larger footprint. And isn't that correct that I don't think you mentioned that, but okay. Whereas Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated April 4th, listed several issues. The planning board held a public hearing on the application tonight as a type 2 action under SEQR. Resolved that the planning board grants the application for revised site development and plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings, and they're spelled out. Subject to, 1, compliance with the conditions stated in the ZBA decision dated January 27th, 2017. Those were some plantings that need to be put in. 2, removal of the playground from the wetland buffer. And 3, satisfaction of the items listed by Han Engineering in its memorandum dated yesterday.
Can I have a motion to approve? Second?
Second, but I have a question.
Yes.
Don't we have to put something in here, subject to,
No, what I will do is I'll prepare an email, and I'll send it to all the board members regarding
Okay.
the issue that George has raised with regard to the flat roof, and you can comment on it, and then I'll take the final email and I'll send it off to the ARB.
okay.
All right? So second, you seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Front page, right?
Yeah, baby.
Make sure you use the microphone.
Yeah. The next item is 2016-27 William and Regina Fitzgerald, 130 Main Street.
Bob Riley, representing Bill Fitzgerald, 130 Main Street.
Okay. The last time we were here, we went back to the ARB for some clarification. And first meeting, we had a very good round robin as to what some of the concerns were. We finished that meeting with a consensus of all the things they wanted seen. I'll show them to you. I made all the changes. We went back. They voted unanimously to approve it. And that gets me back here.
Do you still have to go back to the ARB? Mary, does it still
Yeah,
have
I
to go back to
understand.
the final
I
approval?
spoke with Rick Rizzullo the other night, and he said that the change, they had approved the configuration of the house and everything. The only thing is, they do need to come back for some details, I think, on materials.
Yeah, I said we'd go back, because we hadn't finished the construction drawings, which showed the window list and all that, so
Yeah.
we'll do that, and then we'll go back.
Okay. So do you want to go through, Bob, then, the changes
Sure.
that you did make?
Yep. The first and probably the most prominent is we got rid of the overhang. That goes all the way down. The next does the dormers.
Excuse me, Bob, on that elevation now, on the north elevation, so does that addition then come all the way out to the front of the building?
Yeah, they wanted 12 inches back from that face, so we're showing 12 inches. The minute you get here, of course, it's going back, receding, but you don't see it here. I had details where the dormers were blending into the side, like here, and they said they didn't like that. They wanted freestanding dormers, and I combined that one with this as one series of dormers. Nothing on the south face. They didn't like, I think I had a flat roof here, and they sketched, so we did that. Got rid of my porch, put fixed glass in there, and, we got rid of half the deck.
So the deck then ends at the front door?
Yeah, it's exactly the same as
That's
it
there.
ends there.
Okay. Any comments from any of the board members?
Is there anything in the basement level just to the right of the stairs?
I'm sorry,
Is there anything in the basement level,
At
on the elevation north, on the right-hand side?
That blank
Here?
space.
Yeah,
well, that's actually existing now. There's a window into the bathroom.
right, so are you proposing to have it as a blank wall like that?
I didn't put the window in, but I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
put the window in.
There's a window, then can we request that we do some landscaping around there too, so it doesn't look such like a...
Okay,
Yeah.
there's actually some there now, but we will.
Okay.
I'm confused, but by putting the window in, do you mean you're gonna put it on the drawing? The window's already.
Yeah, the
there.
window,
Oh, okay.
the window's already there. Yes, we will.
And I think you also, there's at least one tree out here too that's to the right of the front door. Is
Here,
there not-
yes.
Yeah, in the front yard, so that,
Yep.
and that tree is staying.
Well,
Or is that one
probably
coming
not.
down?
We're gonna try, but they wanted the stairs to go straight down. Our original design had it come down, took a turn and went that way, and they wanted it to represent, so that's coming very, very close to that existing tree.
Okay, can you pull up the site plan then?
Sure. See, that's, it's very close, and also, we have to bring all of the roof leaders down, come across, and get into the dry well, so I'm not sure if that's, we will gladly plant another one similar to it out of that path, but I think it's going down.
All right, just want to see what our landscape architect recommended on that too.
I don't think she had any.
Did you make any comments on this one? This one Fitzgerald?
I mean,
I doubt
We need it.
Thanks, baby. Good man, thanks.
She had no comment.
You're gonna get a
Okay.
job
it.
here.
here's her memo.
No, she doesn't. I have a copy.
No, her
Thanks.
only thing was about stop grinding the,
Sunset.
Huh?
The sunset.
We're looking at the sunset.
Oh, nice.
All right, well, yeah, I think you should do something to
Okay.
look at replanting a tree. If you can't save that tree, then you might want to take a look at, can you work around, stay far enough from the root system of that tree where you could actually save it? I think you'd be better off
We'll
trying
try.
to save it.
We will love to, but I doubt it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see what
Because
we can do.
the stairs are gonna come,
Right down to
well,
it?
the stairs, if you can bring them down the way the architectural.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Bill,
microphone, please. But, oh, I'm sorry.
Bill
The
Fitzgerald.
way the ARB wants it is the stairs to come down, and it's going to be
Straight.
about 4 feet out from where the existing stairs end,
Very close to the tree.
and the
landing
tree is
on-
right there.
Here, Bob, why do you take this, so we don't yell at each other?
You did a nice job.
Okay, well then I think you should look at planting, doing some plantings out there too. I think
Okay.
just make,
We're happy to do that.
okay.
Can I just ask a
Yes.
clarification? So the overhang, did you bring the bottom over or did you bring the top in?
Where am I now?
The overhang.
The
The prior overhang. Did you bring the top
Oh,
back?
I brought the whole thing all the way down.
You put
Okay,
the
so you
front-
brought the bottom over, so that there's
Correct.
no,
Yeah, instead of coming down, back in 3 feet and down, it came all the way down.
okay.
So you brought the bottom out.
Yes.
All right. Then, Mary, do you have a resolution on this? Well, I'm sorry, any other comments from anyone in the audience on this? No? George, any other comments? No? Okay, do you have a resolution
I
on this?
did
Mary?
prepare one, but I didn't have anything about adding the tree, so I can check
Oh, can you
that
write-
in.
yeah, can you-
What is that?
I think, well,
Do everything we can to
Yes.
save the existing maple tree, if it can't be saved, to replace it
replace
with
it.
like kind of quality,
sure.
that's fine.
Want a job?
With landscaping around that,
Oh, definitely, I mean, yeah,
I'm-
yeah, absolutely, you can put it, yeah, I want landscaping, sure.
Installing landscaping where, George?
In front of the ground floor,
Basement.
basement,
Yeah.
bathroom.
right, whatever.
Front of, is it basement or ground?
The reason there's not landscaping right now is because the
Ground floor.
trap is there, and it's a big metal piece, that's gonna be gone.
We're gonna rework it.
So you
Sewer
can't
line
plant
comes
on
out
top
here.
of steel.
You just don't want a blank wall. So I'm glad to hear that there's a window there that's staying. You just don't want a,
Yes, blank.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, I'm all for it.
1 second.
While Mary Ann is doing that, I have to comment on this. This is the poster boy of what can go wrong and will go wrong. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the issues was, on the review of this, was some definitions in the historic demolition area. And if I'm not mistaken, the trustees made some amendments to clarify renovations versus demolition. Or I may be using the wrong words. Maybe you can give him the mic so he can clarify.
I'll give you what I think we did, and then Marianne can correct me. It's still considered demolition because of the definitions of substantial removal of a front facing and so forth, so it still falls under that definition. But what happened was the ARB is able to use other criteria beyond the ones that are in place for that kind of financial analysis of removal of the entire building. So they can ask for other kinds of things, including proposed drawings for what's going to be built, even though knowing that it hasn't been approved yet by the planning board, they can still see what's envisioned. And I'm not sure if there's any other changes, but it's on that order. So there were some subtle changes, but it allowed them the ability to process something like the change in the front porch, et cetera, the front facade, maybe more intelligently than it was processed this first time around.
So he had the misfortune of being first.
Thank you. But it exposed something that people just hadn't thought through clearly, so it's better now.
Okay.
You want to read the resolution?
Well,
Thank you.
Whereas in September 2016, William and Regina Fitzgerald applied for site plan approval to construct a 3-story addition to their house at 130 Main Street, along with the deck and drainage structures. And since the house is a contributing building in the Historic Overlay District and is located in the Business District and the View Preservation Overlay District, the proposed improvements constitute a demolition under the zoning code provisions for the Historic District, and therefore, under 224-199, require demolition approval from the ARB. The applicants appeared before the ARB and modified their plans in response to direction by the ARB, which on January 9th approved the demolition with the understanding that the application would still require planning board approval and would have to come back to the ARB for review under sections 9.6 and 9.7 of the code. Hahn Engineering reviewed the plans, and the memoranda dated September 7th, January 31st, and February 28th listed a number of issues, most of which were addressed in subsequent submissions. Lucille Munns, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and agreed that the 2 trees proposed to be removed and recommended that they be stump ground below grade. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on September 7th, February 1st, and March 1st. The planning board, at its March 1st, 2017 meeting, expressed concern about the configuration of the proposed addition and directed the applicants to go to the ARB for its review of the addition. The applicants modified the design of the addition and met with the ARB on March 13th and March 27th, which approved the reconfiguration of the addition. And the applicants appeared before the planning board on April 5th with the proposed addition with the addition that had been approved by the ARB. The planning board determined that the proposed improvements would not have a negative impact on the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties. It's a type 2 action under SECRA. Resolved that the planning board grants the application for site plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Fitzgerald, subject to 1, complying with the items listed in the Hahn memorandum dated April 4th, 2017, 2, in removing the trees, stump grinding them below grade, 3, submitting a signed and notarized letter from the neighbor to the west stating that he is the owner of the property and that he agrees to removal of the trees on his property.
we got that.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so then it's satisfied. 4, installing landscaping in front of the ground floor bathroom, and 5, taking all measures to save the maple tree, but if not possible, replace it with a tree of like kind. So that's penned in on one of them, but not the others, and
Right.
the ones you've got. Just the one that it's in, we'll give him, and then I'll fix the one for the
Okay.
planning board office.
I have a motion then to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
God love you all.
They're not that easy to really.
Me? Yeah.
They're on the wall.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, contractors.
At the next item is 2016-39.
Snow and then with the rain. So we said next week.
Linda Boff, 6 Palliser Road.
I'm up for anything. As long as it's dark.
That's fine, thank you.
Sure. Can't look at it. I can't read upside down. If I put my glasses on, it's not gonna work.
Hi, I'm Troy Wojciechowski, engineer for the Boffs. Steve Briggs, where's Steve? Right there. He's representing the Boffs as well. Since last month's meeting, we went to the ZBA and obtained our variances. One was for coverage and one was for, technically, I guess the pool needed a variance for being in front of the rear.
Not in the rear yard.
Yeah, not in the rear yard, basically. And was basically because of the angle of the house with respect to Palliser Road. We also took care of comments from the ECB and from the village's landscape consultant. We switched out some plantings that I think were more deer resistant, added additional screening trees, some birch trees, along with the proposed evergreen trees that we've had on the plans. And we added some tentative additional stormwater measures. We added an additional infiltrator unit for the pool patio, and we've also shown new infiltrator for the patio off the rear of the house, and that was based on the planning board's comments last month to help mitigate the coverage variance that would provide stormwater measures exceeding what's required by the village. So that's what we've shown so far. I've been in contact with Doug's office because there was some question about a catch basin, an existing catch basin in the rear of the yard. And so I met Doug out there on site and looked at it, and it didn't look like it was really doing much out there. And Steve verified a few days ago that it really isn't doing anything out there. He ran a hose in it, for a half hour at least.
The old owner might have made it or something.
Yeah, so the pipe is blocked. I mean, we thought that the pipe wrapped around the house and potentially came out by the street, which was problematic in the village's eyes. But Steve said the water basically just filled up in the catch basin, and he went out and there was no sign of any water coming out. So I think, to be honest, I don't think the catch basin catches much area, and anything it might catch probably just perks into the ground up in the rear yard. But in any event, we're going to continue to work with Doug's office
to finalize the storm system. We still have to do some perk tests out there and some test pits to verify soils, but besides that, I think we're in pretty good shape. So unless the planning board has any additional questions or comments, we're hoping to leave tonight with a conditional approval so Steve can go to the ARB. The board would consider that.
Any comments?
Yeah, I wasn't here last month, but Doug, did the mechanics of the pool covered? Backwash, disinfection?
Yeah,
Are you using the
no
backwash filter?
backwash.
Okay.
yeah, draining the pool, everything was, they covered everything.
Okay.
Pool.
No questions.
And then are you and Doug are okay with the issue with
Yes.
draining onto the street?
Oh, they removed it.
They removed it?
They brought it back to the end, to the middle of the property.
And he added an extra dry well to capture any additional runoff from that area.
Okay. So any comments from anyone in the audience? No? No other comments? Then, Marianne, do you have a resolution on this?
Whereas in December 2016, Regis and Linda Bach applied for site development plan approval to construct a 700 square foot pool and 900 square foot patio and to replace the patio and retaining wall at their house at 6 Palliser Road. Whereas the proposed construction would exceed permitted coverage, thereby requiring a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The planning board advised the applicants to reduce the size of the improvements, which the applicants eventually reduced to a 676 square foot pool and a 224 square foot patio. On March 21st, 2017, the ZBA granted variances for coverage and for the pool being nearer to the street line than the rear wall of the main building. Han Engineering reviewed the plans, and in memoranda dated January 3rd, January 31st, and February 28th, listed a number of issues, most of which were addressed in subsequent submissions. Lucille Munds, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans, and in memoranda dated February 2nd and February 26th, made recommendations which were adequately responded to in subsequent submissions. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on January 4th, February 1st, March 1st, and April 5th. It's a type 2 action under secret. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Site Plan for Boff Property Improvements, prepared by TW Engineering, subject to satisfying the comments listed in Han Engineering's memorandum of April 4th, 2017.
Have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thanks for your help with this.
Thank you very much.
So I have one question though. Will they be swimming this summer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
I'll be there to do that.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Wait, let's see about the
Oh, yeah.
So the resolution doesn't make it to the end.
When I used to be a big head.
One for you.
Next item is 2016-35, Steve and Suzanne Soleimani for Bracebridge Lane.
Hello.
Green light on?
No.
Going to the right. Let me hang it on the desk.
Hello. Hello, my name is Greg Sharp. I'm representing Steve and Suzanne Soleimani at 4 Bracebridge Lane. At this time, I think we've addressed all of the town's issues. We've brought in a landscape architect and consultant engineer to resolve all the drainage. We worked with both Lucille Muntz, the town landscape architect, as well as Doug Hahn to resolve any and all issues that were brought up at the previous meeting and submission. I think that we've successfully addressed any issues, so why don't I ask you guys if there's anything else you'd like to discuss?
Comments? Hillary, do you have any comments? No, I just had one. It was in Doug's memo too, and I noticed this too. On your landscape plan, it says the landscape plan states the existing arborvitae hedge future replacement along Broadway.
Yes.
All right. Well, what you're going to have to do is add in there that if you're going to do a replacement, that the replacement should provide that the same amount of screening is provided and that it meets the height of the existing screening at this point.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So there's also, the tree removal summary chart report should be provided.
I think we were okay with that. There are 3 trees to be removed. He identified one as a cherry, and the other 2 were smaller trees that were to be removed. I think that was okay. And you did have Stephen Lopez give a list of the trees and
That's correct.
shrubs to be replaced or to be added.
That's correct.
I think I was okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Mary Ann, do you have a resolution on this one?
By the way, if you're passing it around sign, I have a sticky on the sign page because there's an appendix in addition to this, which I'll explain.
Okay.
Whereas in December 2016, Steve and Suzanne Solomani applied for site plan approval to construct a new single-family house on .3 acres located at 4 Bracebridge Lane in the 1 Act 20 zoning district and in the View Preservation Overlay District. And the house as originally proposed would require a number of variances, including for coverage, height, side yard setbacks, and working in the Broadway buffer. And the applicants revised their plans so as to meet the zoning code's area requirements for the 1F20 zoning district. The planning board expressed concern that so many different materials were being used in the construction of the house, and the applicants responded by modifying the design. Han Engineering reviewed the plans in a memoranda dated December 6th, January 3rd, January 31st, February 28th, and April 4th, listed a number of issues, most of which were addressed in subsequent submissions. Lucille Muntz, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans, and then memoranda dated December 4th, January 30th, and February 26th made recommendations which were adequately responded to in subsequent submissions. The applicants hired an arborist to inspect the black walnut tree located in the center of the property to determine how best to protect it during construction, and Bartlett tree experts submitted a report on the actions that should be taken to protect the tree. The planning board held a public hearing on December 6th, January 4th, February 1st, and April 5th. The proposed construction would not impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties or the adjacent right-of-way, and the action is a Type 2 action under SECRA. Resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Solomani Residence, prepared by Case Development, subject to 1, satisfaction of the items listed by Han Engineering in its memorandum of April 4th, and compliance with the recommendations listed in the letter from Bartlett Tree Experts dated March 13th, which is what's attached.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve? Motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you. Approved.
Come forward. Okay.
You get one of those.
Thank you.
Give the other one to Mary Ann, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next item is 2016-31 Panos Papapanu and Ivanthia Lala, 20 Lewis Road. I'm recused in this matter, and Hillary Chanel is going to act as chairperson on this matter.
Patty.
Schneider, Gotham Design Community Development, representing Dr. Papapanu and his wife. Actually, at the last meeting, at the March meeting, I think that's where we kind of brought things up to where they needed to be with the site plan. We reduced the area inscribed by the pool fence to the rear yard. We shifted the pool further from the roots of the larger trees. We clarified some of the proposed plantings, eliminated the alternative construction access involving the neighbor's property, and we reduced the site coverage. So that was all done for the last meeting. At that point, we were directed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We appeared before the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they granted the variance.
Any comments?
You don't have access from the neighbor. Where is the access? I missed that.
Yeah, we've been frustrating everybody by showing 2 access points for, I'm not sure where we've got it on here, but basically what we're doing is there's a fence here on the side of the house. We'll be taking a section of that fence out, and we'll be coming up around through here. Coming up, we're going to replace these steps anyway, so we'll come up and then we come up through here. We're going to have to pull some bushes back, tie them back so they're not in the way, but we get the access through there. It's a longer access than what if we had come off the neighbors, but it involves just this property, and the neighbors were very concerned about some of the trucks and the weight of the trucks.
What kind of fence is that you're removing?
It's a black aluminum fence. We'll be restoring it after we're done, so it'll be put back.
Right, and you worked out the fence issue with the goldsmith? Right?
Yes, they are leaving the section of fence that they built on the doctor's property.
And they're going to put in a new fence?
And they're going to put a new fence on there.
And that's, you worked that out, right?
Yes.
So, you're okay?
Meets the code.
Okay, so, the only issue that I think we have is from Lucille Munns, and she requested, she said adequate, but she would like, there's a 10-foot Norway spruce to be added.
Yeah.
She would like that changed to a 12-foot.
No problem. We'll just put it up on a little stool or something. No, that's fine.
Okay.
If they have a really nice looking 14-foot, I'd put that in too.
And then there was, on your additional notes, you have Schedule B, rhododendron, laurel, blah, blah, blah. She said that there's no plant schedule, provided size and quantity of each species. This is too vague.
What we had talked about was having her come out when we're done, because we're very extensively planted. No? What do you want us to do?
It needs to be resolved before you get your permit.
Okay.
Okay. So there will be a
We'll do that.
condition.
That's fine.
Okay. And then the quantities should be provided on the size.
Sure. We'll do that.
Okay, so I think we, unless there's an issue, I think we have a resolution. Yeah.
In October 2016, Papapanu and Avanti Alala applied for site development plan approval to construct a pool and related improvements at their property at 20 Lewis Road. The proposed construction would exceed permitted coverage, thereby requiring a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Planning Board advised applicants that the size of the pool area should be reduced, which applicants did in a subsequent submission. Planning Board also advised applicants to move the pool fence closer to the pool, which applicants did in a subsequent submission. Applicants' plans showed construction access through their neighbor's property, but the neighbors submitted 4 letters dated November 2nd, 2016, January 3rd, 2017, February 1st, 2017, and March 1st, objecting inter alia to the construction access over one of the neighbor's properties. And whereas the plans were revised to eliminate the construction access over the neighbor's property, on March 21st, 2017, the ZBA granted a variance for coverage. Han Engineering reviewed the plans in a memorandum dated October 31st, January 3rd, January 31st, and February 28th, listed a number of issues, all of which were addressed in subsequent submissions. Han Engineering, in a memorandum dated April 4th, stated that all of its comments had been satisfactorily addressed. Lucille Munns, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and, in memoranda dated October 26th and February 26th, made recommendations which were addressed in part in subsequent submissions. The Planning Board held a public hearing on the application on November 2nd, January 4th, February 1st, March 1st, and April 5th. The actions of Type 2 action under SECRA. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board grants the application for site plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Papapanu Residence, prepared by Gotham Design, subject to submission of a revised landscaping plan which must be approved by Lucille Munz. So that will cover all those things you mentioned.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Madam Chair.
Excellent job. Not the Pat, that's doing an excellent job.
Oh, and what's that?
Anytime.
Okay, the next item is 2016-29, Eileen Fisher, 116-118 Main Street.
Hello, my name is Obed Abdullah from Hudson Engineering. I'm here on behalf of our client Eileen Fisher regarding 116-118 Main Street, and we're seeking, I guess, a resolution for approval. We received Mr. Hahn's comments regarding the site plan. We've addressed 2 of them. He still has to review them. We've added an additional Coltec and tested out the ORFI. We have the calculations with us. We can give it to him to make sure the 100-year storm event passes, and we've lowered the Coltecs by a foot. That's not a problem. We're also seeking clarification with regard to the driveway apron. Now, you guys had asked that the driveway apron be replaced, but if it's not being disturbed, is it still required to be replaced, or?
Well, I think that the policy in the village is that, you know, if you're doing some work out there, right, particularly here where I guess there have been some areas in the sidewalk where it's been dug up in the past, that we wanted it replaced from it would be the westerly property line to the first sidewalk, first walkway that comes to the municipal sidewalk.
To include the water main patch. You probably won't see it, it's the outside of the field to see it.
That's within the driveway apron?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so going to that, your circular walkway, to the first side of the circular walkway there, closest to the west side of the property.
Right.
Is there any other comments from any of the board members?
Yeah, I seem to recall there was a neighbor's sewer line transversing your property. Did that get resolved?
You went along the opposite?
No, in the driveway.
The Clark,
Yes, that was resolved.
it's all fixed.
They cambered it and it's out of the way.
I mean, but it's
in the driveway.
It's addressed though, that
Yes.
access for repair or?
Yes.
Any other comments? No? Any comments from anyone in the audience? Marion, do you have a resolution on this item too?
In November 2016, Eileen Fisher applied for site plan approval to construct a patio deck walkways, driveway extension, and related improvements at her house at 116-118 Main Street, which lies in the village's View Preservation District. A portion of the work would occur within the aqueduct buffer, thereby requiring a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in memoranda dated November 2nd, December 6th, and January 3rd, listed a number of issues, most of which were addressed in subsequent submissions. Lucille Munns, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and in memoranda dated October 26th and December 4th made recommendations which were adequately responded to in subsequent submissions. On February 21st, the ZBA granted a variance to permit site alterations in the aqueduct buffer. Planning Board held a public hearing on the application on November 2nd, December 7th, January 4th, and April 5th. The proposed construction would not impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties or the adjacent right-of-way. The action is a Type 2 action under SEQRA. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled 116 Main Street and any subsequent plans required by this resolution, subject to the comments listed in Han Engineering's memorandum of April 4th, 2017. And one of those comments includes replacing whole sidewalk panels.
Right. Do I have a motion? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're approved.
Would you like the drawing?
Trying to get rid of the council.
Did you get your copy? Yeah, that's good.
The next item is 2017-05, Lawrence and Janice Sheps, 3 Dallas Lane.
John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, representing Lawrence Sheps. We're here for a special permit for a, what is it, apartment?
Accessory.
Accessory apartment. Accessory
What day is it?
I think we've met the requirements for the special permit. We're not sure what else you guys want to look at. We can show you briefly where the apartment is.
I think why don't you just explain, John, this
Yeah.
is an existing building on the site, an existing structure
Right.
that is already being used as an apartment?
This is an existing garage that has a studio space, finished studio space above it. It's been modified through the building permit process to provide apartment use, so it has a kitchen and a bathroom.
Okay, so there's no change in the site plan then as a result of this request, that's a special permit. Everything stays the same. This is just to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance with regard to accessory apartments coming before the planning board, in which we have the responsibility to look at certain issues. And I handed out a copy of the portion of the code, Article 31, accessory apartments, and if you look on the second page at the top, letters F and G, it says, no exterior changes shall be made to the building in which the accessory apartment is located that, in the opinion of the planning board, would alter the single-family character and appearance of the residence. And then G, the accessory apartment shall not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood in which it is located. In applying this requirement, the planning board shall consider the effect of the proposed accessory apartment on parking, traffic, noise, congestion, appearance, and any other factor that the planning board deems relevant to the character of the neighborhood. The planning board may refuse to issue a special permit if it finds that the number of such approved apartments in the neighborhood, including the one proposed, will adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. And then I think there are a couple other items here at the bottom of the page, too, items B and C under section 224-202. The building inspector shall conduct a physical inspection of the proposed accessory apartment and the building in which it is located and report the results to the planning board. In granting a special permit for an accessory apartment, the planning board shall have the authority to impose such reasonable restrictions and conditions as are consistent with the purposes of this article. And I think those are basically the main items that we are to look at as the planning board. And Ed, have you been out to the apartment?
Yes, we reviewed it with the code and it's consistent.
Consistent with the code. And then again, John, maybe you can just explain where this property is located, what's around the property,
Right.
so we get an idea of what the neighborhood is like.
This is a very unusual property in Irvington. It's surrounded on all four sides by the Dow's Lane campus, so it doesn't have any adjacency with any other residential properties. Access to the property is through the Dow's Lane parking lot. The property includes the main house, which was originally a carriage house for the Dow's estate, and then this freestanding garage with 4 garage bays. The apartment is on the upper level of the garage. The changes that were made, to the existing building were relatively minor. There's a door that's been added on this side, which allows it to meet the residential requirements for the door width. And I don't think there's really anything else significant on the side of the building.
With regard to parking, is that building used on the first floor as a garage space?
It is. One of the bays would be for the apartment above.
Okay.
The driveway approach in front of it can accommodate many more cars in addition to the garage.
All right. Again, any other comments from any of the board members on this? No? Any comments from anyone in the public? No? I think you've met the requirements of the code, and I think in terms of the location of the property and that it is on the school property, you're not near any other residential area, really, sort of isolated there. I think that there really is no impact to the no adverse impact to the neighborhood. So I'm fine with it. Any other comments from any of the board members? No? No, I think, Marion, do you have a resolution on this?
In March 2017, almost on the one-year anniversary of the Board of Trustees passing the accessory apartment law.
This is our first?
Pardon? This is the
our
first. Yeah. Lawrence Sheps applied for special permit pursuant to Article 31 of the zoning code for an accessory apartment in the finished space above the existing garage on his property at 3 Dow's Lane. The application shows that the proposed accessory apartment meets the requirements of zoning code 224-201 subsections A through F. The building inspector conducted an inspection of the proposed accessory apartment and the building in which it's located and reported to the planning board, 1, that the proposed apartment complies with the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code, and 2, that no violations of the Irvington Code exist with respect to 3 Dow's Lane. The planning board conducted a public hearing on the application on April 5th. The planning board has considered the effect of the proposed accessory apartment on parking, traffic, noise, congestion, and appearance of the neighborhood, and found that the apartment would not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. The application is a type 2 action under SECRA. Now therefore be it resolved that an accessory apartment special permit be issued to Lawrence Sheps for an apartment in his garage at 3 Downs Lane, subject to the following conditions. 1, the accessory apartment special permit shall expire 3 years from the date below, but may be renewed by the planning board upon application under Article 31. That's a requirement of the code, the 3-year expiration. And that the accessory apartment special permit shall expire automatically upon change of ownership of the building or when Mr. Sheps ceases to occupy the residence. That's also a requirement of the code.
Can I have a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. This has nothing to do with the approval, but curiously, the owner of the single-family residence must occupy. How do you know that?
Yes.
Larry did provide an affidavit indicating that he was. So the code requests an affidavit.
Okay.
So he can't leave, just to stay.
The next item is 2017-06 Joseph Mara, 20 Barney Park.
Hello, my name is Christopher Keene. I'm the designer and builder for Maris on 20 Barney Park, Irvington. And proposed to construct a stairway and a roof overhang over this door we just saw about that rear of the house. I have some photographs for you. These are the photographs prior to
Please take the microphone with you for the transcript.
presenting some photographs to the board of pre-existing structure, and this is the photographs currently happening. So what I did is I replaced this 9-foot. It's hard to see because these pictures were taken without knowing that was going to change this door. This was a 9-foot bank of double-hung windows. I turned it to a 9-foot Marvin door. Same width, different purpose. And so right now, currently I have this stair here, just a small, this is a temporary stair, just so they have egress in and out of the house. So I don't know if you're familiar with the plan submitted and the survey, but the gross addition is less than 1% to the coverage. There was a little Ilco door, I think it's here. You remove that. There was actually a coal chute at one time, and that's removed out. And what's left is a little bit of a window you can see somewhere here, right there. We propose to close that off, and also Greenfield Plumbing put in an air access refresher maker for the furnace. So we have to pipe that through to the front of the new deck.
I'm a little confused. Could you just explain exactly what is it that you're adding?
What would be adding would be
These items have been added already, this is a legalization.
This is a
Right,
legalization.
the doors are right there, and temporary stairs are right there.
Okay.
So what I'd like to add is, yes, exactly. So I'm going to connect, there's two existing pop-outs.
Okay,
See?
these two?
Right, so I'm going to connect those stairway just for aesthetic purposes. I think they'll look nicer, function better. And to protect that, because it's facing north with very little sunlight, I like to cover it with an overhang.
So that's the two windows and the door that you installed. That's in this area in here?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So is there an issue with coverage now on this? Or side yard setback? Both.
It's 8 feet. Currently, these two existing pop-outs are 8'1" from the property line. This doesn't extend any further beyond the existing pop-outs, but I guess it's still an issue.
Right, because you're filling in the side yard.
Correct. Yes.
Any comments, any questions?
So also, on mine, there's two wooden stairs that
Where's the
exist.
deck today?
Sure, decks that connect in between these two pop-outs.
And what's the depth of that?
That's 3 feet plus.
Oh, so small.
Yes, very small. Plus 2 steps.
These steps will come out beyond that line.
No, they will not. The steps will not go beyond the existing pop-outs.
So, okay, it's going to be 3 feet?
Correct.
The total, how much of that is the step?
Here, see it right here. Yes, that's it. Right side. It's a lot larger here. Right there. There you go. That's it.
Oh, the steps are going to be the whole width, okay.
Correct.
I thought they were going to be,
No. And there's also a small issue of, there's stone, I like to put stone steps outside two existing doors. Right now, they're wooden, temporary ones, and before we did the renovation, they were also wooden steps that are rotted away. So I like to make that a permanent stone step.
Have you seen Doug Hahn's letter?
No, I have not, no.
Oh, okay. Well, there are a series of comments here that I think you'll have to respond to. I think one of them, Doug, was that we need an individual site plan here. It's not sufficient to put those changes on the survey map. There needs to be an individual.
Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't receive that. I would have maybe been able to address that.
Recommendation, or you want to send them on to the ZBA at this point?
We don't have the numbers.
We don't have the numbers yet, so we don't know for sure where they can go.
We need the site plan to be a little
So
bit
we
more
need the
complete.
site plan.
And Mr. Hahn has,
The other sheet was
Yeah.
filled out all wrong, we couldn't tell the.
Yeah, we
numbers.
need an actual site plan, you had the survey, and then you had like proposed conditions on there.
And then on your data sheet, you put down what the requirements of the zoning code are, not what the setbacks for your property is or what the coverage is for your property, so there's no way we could tell.
okay.
They still have to respond to those comments and come back with a site plan, and then, once we address those issues, then if you need to go to the ZBA, we can send you.
Okay, so we'll schedule ourselves for the next meeting, and meanwhile get.
You got 2 weeks to get the revised plans in.
Right.
Speak with Doug if he's available and you're available.
Right.
Get the submission in.
Okay.
Out time.
Yeah, the issue I think was a little bit, is I'm not familiar with how you work. I'm from Shelter Island, and this is sort of new to me.
Little different.
I haven't.
You're not going back tonight.
Shelter Island is much more casual. Easier, race related. And I worked in Irvington at the Stan Getz's estate back in the 70s. That's the last time I worked in Irvington. Okay, thank you very
Okay,
much.
very
for your
good.
time.
Thanks. We'll see you next month. I just gave him a copy of it. Next item is 2017-04, Jason Topman, 3 Leafwood Terrace. Good evening.
Sorry, I have such tiny drawing. My name is John Carroll.
Speak into the microphone, please.
See, look at that. Readjust. Is that better? I'm representing Mr. Topman. We're going to be doing some work on his home. The majority of the work is going to be done within the structure itself. There's a conversion of some attic space into a room and some judicious relocation of walls within the second floor. And the other thing that we're going to be doing is rebuilding the rear deck and actually making it In some places a little bit bigger, but overall smaller than about 12 square feet. And none of what we're doing actually affects anything around the outside of the house, except that we'll be digging some holes for the piers for the deck. And we put in some, silt fence around that so that we don't have any runoff into anybody else's yard.
And then you're doing some dormering of the house,
Yeah,
so
there's
that
going
will...
to be one small dormer on the back side of the roof of the existing garage to give that room that's in the front portion of the garage a little bit more light ventilation.
So will the front facade of the house change at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
Comments? May I? Sorry, Jason Topman. One thing we are also doing is we have an existing screened-in porch. We're just putting glass on it.
Which makes it a room then, correct?
Changes, that's the FAR issue that
That's
I
it.
have.
Okay.
When you enclose a porch, on it, a screen porch is not FAR. So you're adding FAR, so we have to adjust that as well.
Oh, okay.
One of the comments you'll see on those.
All right. Not a problem. We're going to take care of that.
So I think you'll have to respond to those issues and then make a determination whether you're within the FAR for the site. And if you are, then we can review it as just a site plan, and otherwise you may have to go to the ZBA then.
Right.
If you go.
Okay.
Right, so, Doug, does he have a copy?
Did you get the email? You did?
No, I haven't gotten it yet.
Here, I'll give you this one, I'll just take my copy.
Thank you. And if you have an email too, can you do that with me?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I think it's actually an email on the drawing.
Is that the one that was not added?
Yes.
Okay. It was sent there, I don't know.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet.
All right, I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Any comments from anyone in the public? No one's left.
Well, one thing we should do is say to both of these applicants, when they have to come back or something like that, that no one really has any objection to
What's being proposed at this
Right,
point.
so
You're just
that
going to
they
have to
don't
meet
get-
the requirements of the code. And if you don't need you don't need to go to the ZBA, then we can look at it in terms of your site plan approval from this board, as I said. Otherwise, you may have to go to the ZBA, but I don't think there's any issue from this board in terms of what you're proposing to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
There are set numbers that we can say, and saying it is, it's on the Okay.
We have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Absolutely. On the balance sheet.
So moved.
All in favor?
All right.